let's invite into the stream Representative French Hill, Republican from Arkansas, member of Congress, to help us break down some of the highlights of last night's debate. Good to have you here, Congressman. Is there a key thing that you think people should pay attention to from that debate last night?
Well, I thought, first of all, both the Vice President and President Trump did play within the rules of the debate. I thought it was engaging. I thought you saw a stark contrast between the policies of Joe Biden that he says he would pursue if he were elected and the record of accomplishment, particularly on the economy and domestic policy that President Trump has achieved in just his first term.
Hey, Congressman Rick Newman here. What do you assess to be Trump's chances at this point? Obviously, he's far behind in the polls. He is the underdog at this point. You think he still has a chance to win?
You know, Rick, I do. I think it's determined by those key states, Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, and he's playing in states like Minnesota and Wisconsin. And it's about get out the vote, targeting those voters. And he has an extensive record in targeting those key voters. And those extra states, Rick, like Minnesota and Wisconsin, offer perhaps an additional path if he struggles in a state like Arizona.
Representative, what would the message then be for President Trump, depending on the state? I would imagine the oil comment that Biden had would be big in Texas. But when you go to other places, perhaps Minnesota, Mike, the Biden folk point out that Donald Trump back in 2000 in his book, The America We Deserve, said, and this is a quote from the book, "Our people are our greatest asset. We must take care of our own. We must have universal health care." Then he goes on to say we should just give everybody the same insurance, health insurance, that the representatives and government employees have. So which message will it be? And would you sign in, by the way, with what President Trump is saying about universal health care?
Well, let's turn to the message. I believe the message should be we want to go back to the economy that we had before the pandemic hit. Lowest unemployment in 50 years for African Americans, women, Hispanics, business formation rates that were recovering, job utilization rates were up, capacity utilization were up. We were headed in the right direction. And to have 50 years, the best unemployment rate is a great indicative of that. Plus, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act allowed families to keep more of their own money, and the same for small businesses. So we had real wage growth going into this pandemic. So President Trump is the person who I think is the best person to rebuild the economy from the pandemic, and is better than Vice President Biden's positions of raising $4 trillion in taxes, increasing regulatory burdens on small businesses, increasing mandates as it relates to his views on national health insurance. And he says he's not for the Green New Deal, and then he keeps explaining the Green New Deal, which has huge costs to the consumers and business sector in our economy. So in my view, that's the message that President Trump should run on in these final hours before the election.
Representative Hill, this is Dan Howley. I kind of want to push back on that. If we're going to look at the two candidates, the one that you could arguably say with the experience of pulling a country out of a deep recession would be former Vice President Biden. I kind of look at the Trump administration's startup came on the coattails of the Obama administration's ability to raise the country back from recession. So I guess how do you square that where you say that the Trump administration has done a great job with the economy, didn't do very much to help shut down the virus in this country? You look at something like Taiwan, places are getting back to normal there. We're still struggling, and now we have cities that have to go back into restrictions. So I guess of the two, which would you then say, based on that history, is the one with the better chance of pulling this economy out?
Well, two good questions there. First, on the issue of the Obama administration, it was the slowest recovery after a major recession in the World War II since World War II. So their higher taxes, higher mandates, higher regulatory burden produced the slowest recovery, the weakest job performance. You didn't really see, at least in my congressional district, the job participation rate and the unemployment rate began to drop until really late 16, and then it really accelerated 17, 18, and 19. So you had very more bond recoveries across the country. In fact, we didn't recover the total jobs lost in 2007, 08, that time frame, until 2017. 10 years later, in 2018, did you see job numbers really reach in Arkansas back where they had been in July 07 before the 08, 09 crisis? So I really think President Trump's policies were superior to President Obama's in the recovery. That's not to take anything away from that immediate Bush-Obama stability to try to bring the economy back and prevent it from being worse. I give, of course, both Bush and Obama credit in that early fight. On your other point, I think that President Trump, again, has a better record of wanting affordable health insurance, create a system where people have more choice.
Hey, Congressman, back to coronavirus. Trump keeps saying that we are turning the corner or we're going around the corner here, but the data don't show that. In fact, we're going back toward a record number of infections, and all the public health experts expect this to get worse. Are you satisfied with President Trump's response to the coronavirus, or do you wish that he would be doing more? Because this is obviously directly tied to the economy at this point.
Well, if we knew in February what we know now as policymakers in the Congress, as our governors, president and vice president, we would have handled the coronavirus situation differently. We would have not shut down elective surgeries and probably cost our economy about $1 trillion in lost healthcare output, for example. We would have been able to find a way to keep the economy more open, generate more tax revenue, and keep people safe and sound. We'd have a more sophisticated approach. So I've been very quick not to criticize our governors, the president, the vice president, for dealing with a novel coronavirus. And let me give you a quick example of that. In late February, in March, as we were assembling the response to this and talking in Washington, in the Congress and in the executive branch, our public health officials were designing this. We need to have 30 days of shutting the economy down. We believe the virus is going to come in through the American economy and essentially sweep over the American economy. And if we follow the CDC standards, if we shut down the economy, our schools, our hospitals, we will then be able to recover. And that's why the CARES Act had unemployment compensation through July. That's why the PPP program, the Paycheck Protection Program, was geared towards 8 weeks. Get this money from the SBA in your bank and spend it in 8 weeks, because we thought that was going to be the brutal duration of the bulk of the fight against COVID-19. Here we are 7-8 months later, and therefore we have to, in my view, learn to live with the virus while we get the vaccine and therapeutics fully distributed and completed with FDA approval. And we have to be able to go on and keep our economy, our education system, our healthcare system functioning for the American people. So that's the big difference. And it's why I support targeted relief for our families and our small businesses. And I regret deeply that Speaker Pelosi, since the end of July, has not seen her way clear to provide that targeted relief, and instead is demanding this another $2.5 trillion of spending support. I believe we could have done a common sense package first, and Democrats and Republicans in the House would have definitely supported that, and she thwarted that effort, in my view.
All right, Representative Franchil, thank you very much for joining us.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.